Commander Jake Morrison sat at his desk in the Earth Deep Space Monitoring Station. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. Space was quiet today, just like most days. The big screen in front of him showed nothing but stars and empty darkness. Jake had been working this job for 12 years. He watched for signals from other worlds, listened for messages from space explorers, and kept Earth safe from any threats that might come from the stars. Most days were boring. Most days, nothing happened at all. But today was different. The alarm on his computer started beeping. Jake looked at the screen and saw something he had never seen before. A signal was coming from far away, from a place called Kepler 442b. The signal was weak and broken, but it was there. Jake called over to Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, who worked at the station next to him. Amy was the best person on the base at fixing broken signals and making them clear. "Amy, come look at this," Jake said. "I'm getting something strange from the Kepler system." Amy walked over and looked at Jake's screen. She frowned and pushed some buttons. The signal got a little clearer, but it was still hard to understand. "It's definitely a distress call," Amy said, "but it's in a language I don't know. Let me run it through the universal translator." Amy worked on the signal for 10 minutes. Slowly, words started to appear on the screen. The words were scary and sad. "Help us, ... please help us." They came from nowhere. "We have no weapons. No one will help us. The council says no. Please, anyone who can hear this ... help us ... Jake felt his stomach drop. Someone out there was in trouble. Someone was asking for help, and no one was listening. "Amy, clean up the signal more," Jake said. "I need to know exactly what's happening." Amy worked harder on the signal. More words appeared. The message became clearer and more frightening. "This is Elder Kethvar of the Zalani people on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Krillian Empire. They have a huge fleet in our sky. They are bombing our cities. Our people are dying. We asked the Galactic Council for help, but they said no. They said this is not their problem. We have never hurt anyone. We grow food and live in peace. But the Krillians want to make us their slaves. They say they will kill us all if we don't surrender. We have no army. We have no weapons. We don't even know how to fight. Please, if anyone can hear this message, help us. We have maybe 3 days before they destroy everything. Help us." Jake stared at the screen. His hands were shaking. Somewhere in space, peaceful people were about to die, and no one cared. "Amy, how far away is Kepler 442b? Jake asked. "About 50 light years, Amy said. "That's 2 days travel time, if we use our fastest ships." Jake stood up and walked to the big communication panel. He pressed the button that connected him directly. "To Earth Command," a voice answered immediately. "Earth Command, this is Admiral Frank Carter." "Admiral Carter, this is Commander Morrison at Deep Space Monitoring. We have an emergency situation. A peaceful species is under attack and needs help. Send me the details, Commander." Jake sent the signal to Admiral Carter's office. He waited. 5 minutes. The 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Admiral Carter's voice came back on the radio. "Commander Morrison, I've read the message. This is serious. The Krillians are bad news. They've taken over many worlds and made slaves of the people there. If they're attacking these Zalani people, it's going to be a massacre." "What do we do, sir?" Jake asked. "We help them," Admiral Carter said without hesitation. "Get me everything you can find about both species. I want to know what we're dealing with." Jake and Amy worked all night. They found information about the Zalani people. The Zalani were farmers and builders. They had never fought a war. They spent their time growing food and making beautiful cities. They were kind and peaceful, and they helped anyone who needed it. The Krillians were different. They were warriors who loved to fight. They had big ships and powerful weapons. They traveled from world to world, taking whatever they wanted. They made slaves of weaker species and destroyed anyone who said no to them. The next morning, Jake got a call from Admiral Carter. "Commander Morrison, I need you to keep monitoring that signal. Find out exactly what's happening on Kepler 442b. I'm putting together a fleet to help these people." "Sir, the Krillians are supposed to be very strong." Jake said, "Are you sure we can help?" "Commander, I've been in the military for 30 years. I've learned one thing in all that time. When innocent people are in trouble, you don't ask if you can help. You ask how fast you can get there." Jake smiled. This was why he respected Admiral Carter. The Admiral never backed down from doing the right thing. For the next day, Jake and Amy listened to more signals from Kepler 442b. The news got worse every hour. The Krillians had started bombing cities. Millions of Zilani people were running away from their homes. Children were crying. Families were separated. The elder Kethvar kept sending messages, but his voice sounded more hopeless each time. "Please, someone help us," the elder said in his latest message. "Half our cities are gone." The Krillians said, "They will destroy one city every 6 hours until we surrender. But if we surrender, they will make us slaves. Our children will never be free. We would rather die as free people than live as slaves. But we don't want to die. We want to live. We want to grow food and raise our children and see them grow up happy. Please, someone help us." Jake felt tears in his eyes. He had never met these Zilani people, but he cared about them. They sounded like good people who just wanted to live in peace. Amy put her hand on Jake's shoulder. "The Admiral will help them," she said. "I know he will." That evening, Admiral Carter called Jake. "Again, Commander Morrison, I have good news. We're sending a fleet to help the Zilani. It's not a big fleet, but it's the best we have. Captain Lisa Bennett will command the main ship. She's one of our best officers." "How many ships are we sending?" Jake asked. 15 ships total," Admiral Carter said. "I know it doesn't sound like much compared to the Krillian fleet, but we have advantages they don't know about." "What kind of advantages?" "We fight different than most species in the galaxy. We use tactics they've never seen before. And we have something else they don't have." "What's that, sir?" "We're fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. That makes us stronger than any weapon." Jake felt hope for the first time in days. Earth was going to help. The Zilani people wouldn't die alone. The next morning, Jake received one more message from Elder Kethvar. This time, the elder's voice was full of fear. "This is probably our last message. The Krillians are getting ready for their final attack. They've destroyed 6 of our cities. Our people are hiding in the mountains, but the Krillians will find them soon. If anyone receives this message, please remember us. Remember that we tried to live in peace. Remember that we never hurt anyone. Remember that we asked for help, but no one came. Goodbye." Jake turned off the radio. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, good people were about to die. But also somewhere out there, Earth's fleet was racing to help them. He hoped they would arrive in time. Admiral Frank Carter stood in the command center of Earth's biggest military base. Around him, officers were moving quickly, getting ready for the largest space mission Earth had ever attempted. The wall screens showed star maps, ship locations, and supply lists. Everyone was working as fast as they could. "Operation Guardian Shield is now active," Admiral Carter announced to the room. "We have 47 hours to reach Kepler 442b before those people are wiped out." Captain Lisa Bennett entered the command center. She was 42 years old and had been commanding spaceships for 15 years. She had short brown hair and serious blue eyes. She was known throughout the fleet as someone who never gave up and always brought her crew home safe. "Admiral Carter, the Liberty is ready for launch," Captain Bennett said. "My crew is loaded and all systems are working perfectly." "Good. What about the other ships?" "Captain Tony Martinez says the Constitution will be ready in 2 hours. Captain Helen Baker is finishing final checks on the Defiance. The support ships are all ready to go." Admiral Carter nodded. "Lisa, I want you to understand something. This mission is different from anything we've done before. We're not defending Earth. We're not protecting human colonies. We're going to help people we've never met on a world we've never seen." "I understand, sir. My crew understands too. We talked about it last night. We all agree. If we don't help these people, who will? The Krillians have 47 ships. We have 15. We've faced bad odds before," Captain Bennett said. "We'll figure it out." Admiral Carter smiled. This was why he had chosen Captain Bennett to lead the mission. She never worried about problems. She just found ways to solve them. "What do we know about Krillian fighting tactics?" Captain Bennett asked. "Dr. Kevin Walsh has been studying them." "Kevin, tell the captain what you found." Dr. Walsh was Earth's top expert on alien species. He was a thin man with glasses who spent most of his time reading and researching. He walked over to Captain Bennett with a thick folder of papers. "Captain, the Krillians are brutal but predictable," Dr. Walsh said. "They use big ships with heavy weapons. They attack in straight lines and try to overwhelm their enemies with pure firepower. They've never lost a battle because they always attack weaker species. What about their weaknesses? They're not creative. They do the same thing every time. They put their biggest ships in front and their smaller ships behind. They rely on their shields and armor to protect them while they shoot at the enemy. And the Zelani? The Zelani are farmers and builders. They've never fought a war. They have no weapons, no army, no defense systems. They're completely helpless." Captain Bennett felt angry. The Krillians were attacking people who couldn't fight. Back, it was like a grown man beating up a child. "Dr. Walsh, what's your opinion? Can we win?" "The Krillians have never fought humans before. They don't know how we fight. They expect big ships shooting at each other until one side wins. But we fight differently. We use speed, tactics, and teamwork. We might surprise them." "Might isn't good enough," Captain Bennett said. "We need to be sure." Admiral Carter put his hand on Captain Bennett's shoulder. "Lisa, there are no guarantees in war, but I've seen what human determination can do. I believe we can win." Captain Bennett nodded. "Then let's go save some lives." The next few hours were busy. The Liberty's crew of 2,000 people prepared for battle. In the ship's main hangar, fighter pilots checked their small, fast ships. In the weapons bay, technicians loaded missiles and checked the big rail guns that could shoot metal bars. At incredible speed, Commander Steve Johnson was the Liberty's tactical officer. He was in charge of weapons and battle strategy. He gathered his team in the war room to plan their attack. "Listen up, everyone," Commander Johnson said. "We're going to face an enemy that's bigger and stronger than us. But we have advantages they don't know about." "What advantages?" asked Lieutenant Paul Garcia, the ship's weapons officer. "First, our missiles are smarter than theirs. Each missile has its own computer brain. It can change course, pick its own target, and even work together with other missiles. Second, our point defense systems are better. We can shoot down their missiles and fighters before they reach us." "What about their big ships?" asked Ensign Karen Price, who was new to the tactical team. "Their big ships are slow. Our ships are fast. We can move around them, attack from different angles, and make them confused. They won't know where to shoot." The team worked for hours, planning different attack strategies. They practiced on the ship's computer simulator, fighting fake battles against Krillian ships. They lost the first few battles, but they learned from their mistakes. By the end of the day, they were winning most of the time. On the Constitution, Captain Tony Martinez was having his own meeting with his crew. Captain Martinez was a quiet man who thought carefully before making decisions. His crew respected him because he was always calm, even in dangerous situations. The Krillians think they're the strongest species in the galaxy, Captain Martinez told his officers. They're about to learn they're wrong. We're going to show them what humans can do when we're fighting for something we believe in. Lieutenant Sandra Cole, the Constitution's navigation officer, raised her hand. Captain, what if we get there and find out the Zalani are already dead? Then we make sure the Krillians pay for what they did, Captain Martinez said. But I don't think that's going to happen. The Krillians like to take their time. They want to scare their enemies before they destroy them. That gives us a chance to help. On the Defiance, Captain Helen Baker was preparing her ship for its special role in the mission. The Defiance was the fastest ship in the fleet and had the most advanced electronic systems. It could jam enemy communications, blind their sensors, and hack into their computers. We're going to be the wild card in this fight, Captain Baker told her crew. While the Liberty and Constitution are shooting at the big ships, we're going to cause chaos. We'll make the Krillians think there are more of us than there really are. The support ships were getting ready too. Some carried extra weapons and supplies. Others had medical equipment to help wounded Zalani people. A few were loaded with construction materials to help rebuild damaged cities. Dr. Walsh spent his time studying everything he could find about both species. He read about Zalani culture, their cities, their way of life. He also studied Krillian technology, looking for weaknesses in their ships and weapons. The Zalani are good people, Dr. Walsh told Admiral Carter. They've never conquered anyone. They've never stolen from anyone. They just want to live in peace and grow food. The galaxy will be a darker place if they're destroyed. They won't be destroyed, Admiral Carter said. We won't let that happen. As the ships prepared to launch, Admiral Carter received one more message from Commander Morrison at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Admiral, I just received another signal from the Zalani. The Krillians have started bombing the planet's surface. They're not just attacking cities anymore. They're destroying farms, forests, and anything else they can find. They want to make sure nothing survives. Admiral Carter felt his anger growing. The Krillians weren't just conquering the Zalani. They were trying to wipe them out completely. Commander Morrison, send a message to the Zalani. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on for 2 more days. Sir, should I tell them how many ships we're sending? No. Let them hope. Hope is all they have right now. The Earth fleet launched 6 hours later. 15 ships left Earth's orbit and jumped into slipspace, traveling faster than light toward the Kepler system. Admiral Carter was on the Liberty, commanding the entire fleet from the ship's bridge. As the ships traveled through slipspace, the crews prepared for battle. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots practiced flying maneuvers. Doctors prepared medical equipment. Engineers made sure all systems were working perfectly. Captain Bennett walked through the Liberty's hallways, talking to her crew. She saw determination in their faces, but also fear. They all knew they might not come back from this mission. Captain, why are we doing this? Asked a young ensign named Bobby Turner. These aren't our people. This isn't our war. Captain Bennett stopped and looked at the young man. Bobby, have you ever seen a bully pick on someone smaller? Yes, ma'am. What did you do? I stopped the bully. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. That's why we're doing this. Because it's the right thing to do. The young ensign smiled. I understand, Captain. As the fleet traveled toward Kepler 442b, Admiral Carter sat in his command chair, thinking about the battle ahead. He had fought in many wars, but this felt different. This time, they weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for the idea that strong people should protect weak people. "Admiral," Captain Bennett said, "we'll reach the Kepler system in 36 hours. Are we ready?" "We're as ready as we'll ever be." Admiral Carter nodded. In 36 hours, they would find out if 15 human ships could defeat 47 Krillian ships. The fate of an entire species depended on the answer to that question. The Earth fleet dropped out of slipspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made everyone on the ship stop and stare in horror. The beautiful blue and green planet that should have been peaceful was covered in smoke and fire. 3 large cities were burning, sending black smoke high into the atmosphere. "My God," Captain Bennett whispered as she looked at the main screen on the Liberty's bridge. "We're too late." Admiral Carter stood next to her, his face hard and angry. "No, we're not too late. People are still alive down there. Look at the scanner readings." Commander Johnson checked his instruments. "The Admiral is right. I'm reading millions of life signs on the planet. They're scattered, probably refugees hiding in the mountains and forests, but they're alive." "What about the Krillian fleet?" Admiral Carter asked. 47 ships in high orbit around the planet. 8 heavy cruisers, 2 dreadnoughts, and the rest are destroyers and frigates. They're spread out in a defensive formation. Captain Bennett studied the enemy fleet on her screen. The Krillian ships were huge and dark, with sharp angles and weapon ports covering their hulls. They looked like they were built for one purpose: destroying other ships. "They're not expecting us," she said. "Look at their formation. They're positioned to bombard the planet, not to fight other ships." "That won't last long," Admiral Carter said. "As soon as they see us, they'll change their formation." "Steve, how much time do we have before they detect us?" Commander Johnson looked at his sensors. "Maybe 10 minutes. We're still far enough away that their sensors might not pick us up yet. Then we use those 10 minutes to get as close as possible. Lisa, signal the fleet. Silent running mode. No communications, no active sensors. We get close and hit them before they know we're here." The 15 Earth ships moved quietly through space toward the Krillian fleet. Inside each ship, the crews were tense and ready. This was it. This was the moment they had all been preparing for. On the planet below, Elder Kethvar and the remaining Zelani leaders were hiding in a cave system in the northern mountains. Millions of their people were scattered across the planet, hiding wherever they could find shelter. The Krillians had destroyed most of their cities and were now hunting down the survivors. "Elder Kethvar," said one of the younger Zelani, "our scouts report that the Krillians are preparing for a final assault. They're going to search every mountain, every forest, every hiding place. They want to find us all." Elder Kethvar was an old Zelani with gray fur and kind eyes. He had led his people for 30 years, always keeping them safe and peaceful, but now he felt helpless. There was nothing he could do to protect his people. "We should have built weapons," said another Zelani. "We should have learned to fight." "No," Elder Kethvar said firmly. "We are who we are. We grow food, we build beautiful cities, we take care of our children. We are not warriors. We never want to be warriors." "Then we're going to die," the young Zelani said sadly. "Maybe," Elder Kethvar said. "But we'll die as ourselves, not as something we're not." High above the planet, Warlord Zikthol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. He was a large Krillian with gray skin, sharp teeth, and cold yellow eyes. He had conquered 17 worlds and enslaved millions of people. To him, the Zelani were just another weak species to be crushed. "Status report," Warlord Zikthol commanded. "My lord," said his second-in-command. "We have destroyed 6 major cities and damaged dozens of smaller settlements. Approximately 40% of the population is dead. The survivors are scattered and hiding. How long to find them all? 2 days, maybe 3. They're good at hiding, but we'll find them. Good. When we find them, kill half and enslave the rest. This world has good soil for growing food. We can use it to feed our armies." Warlord Zeke-Thul looked at the planet below and smiled. Soon, another world would belong to the Krillian Empire. The Galactic Council had refused to interfere, just as they always did. No one would help the Zelani. No one ever helped the weak. But Warlord Zeke-Thul was wrong. Help was coming. The Earth fleet was now only 1 million kilometers away from the Yambi. Krillian fleet. Admiral Carter looked at his tactical display and saw that they were still undetected. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he said quietly over the fleet communication channel. "We're going to hit them hard and fast. The Liberty, Constitution, and Defiance will attack their heavy ships. The support ships will launch fighters and missiles. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for people who can't fight for themselves." Captain Bennett felt her heart beating faster. She had been in battles before, but never against odds this bad. 15 ships against 47. But she wasn't afraid. She was angry. Angry at the Krillians for attacking innocent people. Angry at the Galactic Council for refusing to help. Angry at anyone who stood by and watched while the strong hurt the weak. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the Liberty's intercom. "We're about to go into battle. I want you all to remember why we're here. Down on that planet are people who just want to live in peace. They have children, families, hopes, and dreams. The Krillians want to destroy all of that. We're not going to let that happen." Suddenly, alarms started ringing on the Krillian ships. Their sensors had finally detected the approaching Earth fleet. "My lord," the Krillian officer said to Warlord, "Zek-Thul, we're detecting 15 unknown ships approaching our position. They're not in our database." 15 ships? Warlord Zek-Thul laughed. "Against our 47? They must be insane. What species are they?" "Unknown, my lord. They're not answering our communication attempts." "Then destroy them. Show these fools what happens when they interfere with the Krillian Empire." The Krillian fleet began to turn toward the approaching Earth ships, their massive weapons powered up, ready to fire. But Admiral Carter wasn't waiting for them to get ready. "All ships, attack formation now." Admiral Carter ordered. The Earth fleet spread out and accelerated toward the Krillian ships. The Liberty led the charge, its railguns already targeting the enemy heavy cruisers. The Constitution and Defiance flanked it on both sides, their missile tubes loaded and ready. Warlord Zek-Thul watched the approaching ships with amusement. 15 ships against 47. This will be over quickly. But as the Earth ships got closer, his amusement turned to confusion. These ships were moving differently than any enemy he had faced before. They were fast, changing course constantly, making it hard to target them. "Fire all weapons." Warlord Zek-Thul ordered. The Krillian ships opened fire with their heavy energy. Weapons. Bright beams of plasma shot through space toward the Earth ships. But the human ships were ready. Their shields absorbed some of the damage, and their speed helped them dodge the rest. "Incoming communication from the planet," Commander Johnson reported. "It's the Zelani." "Put it through," Admiral Carter said. Elder Kethvar's voice came over. "The communication system." He sounded old and tired, but also hopeful. "Unknown ships, this is Elder Kethvar of the Zelani people. Are you here to help us, or have you come to join in our destruction?" Admiral Carter picked up the communication. "Device. This is Admiral Frank Carter of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to help. Get your people to safety. We're going to deal with these Krillians." There was silence for a moment. Then Elder Kethvar's voice came back, and he was crying. "Thank you for coming. We thought no one would help us." "Someone will always help," Admiral Carter said. "That's what decent people do." Warlord Zek-Thul heard the communication and became furious. "Humans, I should have known. The galaxy's newest species, and they think they can challenge the Krillian Empire." He opened a communication channel to the Earth fleet. "Human ships, this is Warlord Zek-Thul of the Krillian Empire. You are trespassing in Krillian space. Leave immediately or be destroyed with these weak creatures." Admiral Carter's response was calm and cold. "This is Admiral Carter. You have exactly 10 minutes to stop your attack and leave this system. This is your only warning." Warlord Zek-Thul laughed so hard that his officers could hear him throughout the ship. 10 minutes? You give me 10 minutes? Human, I have 47 ships. You have 15. You are outnumbered more than 3 to 1. I'm not interested in your math, Admiral Carter said. I'm interested in your answer. Are you leaving? Or do we have to make you leave? You cannot make me do anything, human. I am Warlord Zek-Thul. I have conquered 17 worlds. I have enslaved millions of creatures. What have you done? I've come to stop you, Admiral Carter said simply. Warlord Zek-Thul's laughter stopped. There was something in the human's voice that made him uncomfortable. It wasn't fear or anger. It was certainty. The human really believed he could win. Destroy them. Warlord Zek-Thul ordered his fleet. Destroy them all. The battle was about to begin. On the planet below, millions of Zalani people looked up at the sky, hoping and praying that the humans could save them. In the caves and hiding places, parents held their children close and whispered that help had finally come. Elder Kethvar stood at the entrance to his cave, looking up at the stars. He could see the lights of the ships high above, getting brighter as they came closer to each other. May the spirits of our ancestors watch over the humans, he said quietly. They came so far to help us. They're risking everything for people they don't even know. The Battle of Kepler 442b began when Warlord Zek-Thul gave the order to attack. The Krillian fleet fired their massive energy weapons at the approaching Earth ships. Bright beams of plasma shot through space like deadly lightning. The Krillians expected the human ships to be destroyed quickly. They were wrong. The Earth ships moved like nothing the Krillians had ever seen. Instead of flying in straight lines, they twisted and turned through space, dodging the energy beams. Their shields glowed as they absorbed the weapons fire that did hit them, but most of the shots missed completely. What are they doing? Warlord Zek-Thul demanded as he watched the human ships dance through his weapons fire. Why aren't they destroyed? My lord, his tactical officer said, they're moving too fast. Our weapons can't track them. Then use more weapons. Fire everything. The Krillian ships fired every weapon they had. The space around the human fleet lit up with energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive shells. But the human ships kept moving, kept dodging, kept coming closer. On the Liberty, Captain Bennett watched the enemy weapons fire streak past her ship. Steve, are you ready? She asked Commander Johnson. All weapon systems are ready, Captain. We're in range of their heavy cruisers. Then let's show them how humans fight. Fire railguns. The Liberty's railguns fired with a sound like thunder. Metal bars the size of telephone poles shot out of the guns at incredible speed. The Krillians had never seen weapons like this before. Their energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid metal traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The first railgun shots hit a Krillian heavy cruiser. The metal bars punched through the ship's shields like they weren't even there. They tore through the hull, creating massive holes in the ship's armor. The cruiser shuddered and began to leak atmosphere. Impossible. Warlord Zekthul shouted. Their weapons went right through our shields. My lord, those aren't energy weapons. They're firing solid projectiles at extremely high velocity. Our shields can't stop them. On the Constitution, Captain Martinez watched the railgun attack. With satisfaction. Our turn, he said to his crew. Launch missiles. The Constitution opened its missile tubes and launched 200 guided missiles at the Krillian fleet. But these weren't ordinary missiles. Each one had its own computer brain and could think for itself. They spread out like a swarm of angry bees, each one picking its own target. The Krillians tried to shoot down the missiles with their defensive weapons, but there were too many of them. The missiles were also smart. When the Krillians shot at them, they changed course or hid behind debris. Some missiles worked together, with one missile acting as a decoy while another attacked from a different angle. They're everywhere. Lee, Krillian tactical officer shouted. I can't track them all. The missiles hit their targets with devastating effect. Explosions bloomed across the Krillian fleet as the smart weapons found weak points in the enemy ships. 3 destroyers were destroyed immediately. 2 frigates were badly damaged and began to drift helplessly through space dot, but the Krillians weren't finished. They had more ships and more weapons. Warlord Zekthul ordered his fleet to close ranks and focus their fire on the human ships. Concentrate. All fire on the lead ship, he commanded. Destroy it. Every Krillian ship targeted the Liberty. Hundreds of energy beams converged on Captain Bennett's ship. The Liberty's shields flared brightly as they absorbed the massive attack. Shields. Down to 60%, Commander Johnson reported. We can't take much more of this. Then we don't give them a chance to do it again, Captain Bennett said. All fighters launch. Attack pattern Delta. The Liberty's hangar bay opened, and dozens of small fighter ships flew out. These fighters were tiny compared to the big ships, but they were incredibly fast and hard to hit. They swarmed around the Krillian ships like wasps around a bear. The Krillian ships tried to shoot down the fighters, but the small ships were too quick. They darted in and out of the enemy formation, firing their weapons at critical systems. Some fighters targeted the Krillian ships' weapon systems. Others went after their engines. A few brave pilots flew directly at the enemy bridges, trying to take out the command centers. These fighters are too fast, a Krillian captain reported. To Warlord Zekthul, we can't hit them. Then ignore them. Focus on the big ships. But ignoring the fighters was a mistake. While the Krillians were trying to destroy the Liberty, Constitution, and Defiance, the small fighters were cutting their fleet apart piece by piece. Captain Helen Baker saw her chance. The Defiance was the fastest ship in the human fleet, and it had special electronic warfare systems that could jam enemy communications and sensors. Take us into the middle of their formation, she ordered her helmsman. Full speed. Captain, that's suicide. Lieutenant Danny Cooper protested. They'll destroy us. Not if they can't see us, Captain Baker said with a smile. Activate the electronic warfare suite. Jam their sensors and communications. The Defiance activated its special systems. Suddenly, the Krillian ships couldn't talk to each other. Their sensors went blank. They couldn't see where the human ships were or coordinate their attacks. What's happening? Warlord Zekthul demanded. Why can't I reach my other ships? Communications are down, my lord. Our sensors are being jammed. We're fighting blind. Captain. Baker pushed the Defiance through the middle of the confused Krillian fleet. As she flew past each enemy ship, her automated weapon systems fired at point-blank range. The Krillians couldn't shoot back because they couldn't see her ship on there. Sensors, this is impossible. Warlord Zekthul roared. How are they doing this? On the planet below, Elder Kethvar and his people watched the battle from their hiding places. They could see the explosions in the sky as the ships fought each other. The Krillian ships that had been bombing their world were now fighting for their own lives. "The humans are winning," whispered one of the young Zelani. "Look, 3 of the big Krillian ships are destroyed. Don't celebrate yet," Elder Kethvar said. "The battle isn't over." He was right. Warlord Zekthul still had most of his fleet, and he was getting angry. The humans had surprised him, but now he knew what he was fighting. He ordered his ships to spread out and attack from all directions. "Surround them," he commanded. "They can't dodge attacks from every direction." The Krillian ships formed a circle around the human fleet. Now the Earth ships were trapped in the middle, with enemies on all sides. The Krillians began firing from every direction at once. "We're surrounded," Commander Johnson reported to Admiral Carter. "Enemy ships in a full sphere around us." "Then we go through them," Admiral Carter said calmly. "All ships, formation, Charlie. We're going to punch a hole in their line." The human ships moved together like a spear point. The Liberty led the charge, followed closely by the Constitution and Defiance. The support ships stayed in the middle, protected by the bigger vessels. "Target their weakest ship," Admiral Carter ordered. "All weapons, fire!" The concentrated firepower of the human fleet hit one section of the Krillian circle. Railguns, missiles, and energy weapons, all focused on the same group of enemy ships. The attack was so powerful that it created a gap in the Krillian formation. "Now, through the gap!" Admiral Carter shouted. The human fleet shot through the opening like an arrow. Before the Krillians could close the gap, the Earth ships were through and reforming on the other side. How did they do that? Warlord Zekthul demanded. They were surrounded. They concentrated their firepower and broke through our weakest point, his tactical officer explained. "It's a very old tactic, but we've never seen it used in space combat. Then we adapt. All ships, attack formation Gamma." No more formations, just attack. The Krillian ships abandoned their careful formations and swarmed toward the human fleet like angry hornets. This was more like the kind of fighting they understood. Ship against ship, weapon against weapon, until one side was destroyed. But the humans were ready for this too. As the Krillian ships charged toward them, the Earth fleet split into 3 groups. Each group attacked a different part of the enemy swarm, dividing the Krillian forces and making it harder for them to coordinate. Captain Martinez led one group in a flanking attack against the Krillian right side. "All ships target their engines," he ordered. "If they can't move, they can't fight." His group's weapons focused on disabling the Krillian ships rather than destroying them. Missiles hit engine compartments. Railguns targeted power systems. Energy weapons cut through hull plating to reach critical components. Several Krillian ships found themselves drifting helplessly as their engines failed. They could still fire their weapons, but they couldn't maneuver or chase the fast-moving human ships. Captain Baker led another group in a hit-and-run attack against the Krillian left flank. Her ships would dart in, fire their weapons, then retreat before the enemy could respond. It was like being attacked by ghosts. "They're everywhere and nowhere," a frustrated Krillian captain reported. "Every time we turn to fight them, they're gone." Admiral Carter kept the main group of human ships in the center, drawing the attention of the largest Krillian vessels. The Liberty traded shots with Warlord Zekthul's flagship, the massive dreadnought destroyer of worlds. "You fight well." "For primitives," Warlord Zekthul admitted over the communication channel. "But you cannot win." "I still have." The silence after the battle was strange. For hours, space around Kepler 442b had been filled with weapons fire, explosions, and the sounds of ships fighting for their lives. Now there was only quiet broken by the soft hum of ship engines and the occasional crackle of radio communications. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the Liberty, looking at the tactical display. 19 Krillian ships had been destroyed. 8 more were badly damaged and drifting without power. The remaining 20 ships had surrendered and were waiting for orders. "Damage report," Admiral Carter asked Commander Johnson. "The Liberty has shield damage and some hull breaches, but nothing critical. The Constitution lost 2 missile tubes and has engine damage. The Defiance is in good shape. The support ships all made it through with minor damage. And the Krillians? Warlord. Zekthol's flagship is dead in space. Life support is failing. We could capture him, or let him surrender formally." Admiral Carter thought for a moment. Open a channel to his ship. The main screen showed Warlord Zekthol standing on what was left of his bridge. Smoke filled the air behind him, and sparks flew from damaged equipment. The proud warlord who had conquered 17 worlds looked defeated and old. "Human Admiral," Warlord Zekthol said, "you have won a great victory today. I have never been defeated in battle before." "This wasn't about defeating you, Admiral," Carter replied. "This was about protecting innocent people." "I do not understand. You traveled 50 light years to help creatures you had never met. You risked your ships and your lives for strangers. Why?" Admiral Carter was quiet for a moment. "Because someone has to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Because if we don't help when we can, then what kind of people are we?" "Warlord." Zekthal shook his head. "In all my years of conquest, I have never met anyone who thought like that. Every species I have encountered thinks only of themselves." "Then you've been meeting the wrong species," Admiral Carter said. "What will you do now?" "I will surrender myself and my remaining ships to you. My warriors will accept whatever punishment you decide. I'm not interested in punishing you. I want you to leave this system and never come back. Take your ships and go home. But first, you're going to help us fix the damage you did here." "I don't understand." "You're going to help us rebuild the cities you destroyed. Your ships are going to carry supplies and work crews. Your people are going to help the Zelani repair their world." Warlord Zekthal looked confused. "You want us to help the people we attacked?" "Yes. Maybe if you work alongside them, you'll understand why they're worth protecting." While Admiral Carter dealt with the Krillian surrender, Captain Bennett was coordinating the relief effort on the planet below. The Liberty's shuttles were flying down to the surface, carrying medical supplies, food, and construction equipment. Dr. Walsh led the first team to land near the northern mountains where Elder Kethvar and his people were hiding. When the shuttle landed, hundreds of Zelani emerged from caves and hiding places. They approached slowly, still afraid, but hopeful. Elder Kethvar walked forward to meet the humans. He was an old Zelani with gray fur and kind eyes that had seen too much sadness in recent days. When he saw Dr. Walsh step out of the shuttle, he stopped and stared. "You are really here," Elder Kethvar said softly. "I thought I was dreaming." "We're here," Dr. Walsh said, "and we're going to help you rebuild." Elder Kethvar fell to his knees and began to cry. Other Zelani gathered around him, many of them crying too. They had been sure they were going to die. They had said goodbye to their children and prepared for the end. But the humans had come. Strangers from across the galaxy had risked everything to save them. "Thank you," Elder Kethvar whispered. "Thank you for not abandoning us." Dr. Walsh helped the old Zelani to his feet. "We could never abandon people like you. Now, let's talk about how to put your world back together." Over the next few days, the work of rebuilding began. Human engineers worked alongside Zelani builders to repair damaged cities. Medical teams treated the wounded and helped families find each other. The Krillians, true to Admiral Carter's orders, provided supplies and labor, but it was strange to see former enemies working together. Krillian soldiers who had been bombing Zalani cities were now helping to rebuild them. Some of the Krillians seemed confused by the work, as if they didn't understand why they were helping instead of conquering. Captain Martinez supervised the reconstruction of New Haven, the Zalani capital city. The city had been beautiful before the attack, with tall spires and hanging gardens. Now much of it was rubble, but the Zalani were determined to make it beautiful again. Captain Martinez, Elder Kethvar said as they stood in the ruins of the city center, "May I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did your people come to help us? What do you gain from this?" Captain Martinez thought about the question. "We gain the knowledge that we did the right thing. We gain the friendship of good people. We gain the satisfaction of knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, children can grow up safe because we were willing to fight for them. That is all?" "That's everything," Captain Martinez said. Meanwhile, Admiral Carter was dealing with a much larger problem. News of the battle had spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Council, which had refused to help the Zalani, was now very interested in talking to Earth. Ambassador Patricia Clark had arrived from Earth to handle the diplomatic situation. She was a smart woman who had spent her career dealing with difficult political situations. But she had never dealt with anything like this. "Admiral Carter," Ambassador Clark said as they met in the Liberty's conference room, "Earth Command is very pleased with your victory. But now we have a new problem. Every species in the galaxy wants to talk to us." "What kind of talk?" "The Galactic Council wants us to join them immediately. 3 species that were conquered by the Krillians want our help freeing their worlds. 2 different trade alliances want exclusive deals with Earth, and at least 6 species want to form military alliances with us." Admiral Carter rubbed his forehead. "All we want to do is help some people who are in trouble." "Well, you've certainly done that. But you've also announced to the entire galaxy that Earth is a major power. There's no going back now." On the planet below, the work continued. Human and Zalani children played together while their parents worked to rebuild. Some Krillian soldiers had started learning Zalani farming techniques, discovering that growing food was more satisfying than destroying cities. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, who had been working at the Deep Space Monitoring Station when the distress call first came in, was now on the planet helping to set up new communication systems. She was amazed by how quickly things had changed. "A week ago, I was just monitoring empty space," she told Commander Morrison, who had come down to the planet to see the results of their work. "Now I'm helping rebuild an entire civilization." "Do you regret it?" Morrison asked. "Are you kidding? This is the most important thing I've ever done. Look around. A week ago, this world was dying. Now it's coming back to life. We did that. We made the difference between hope and despair for an entire species." As the days passed, more ships arrived. In the Kepler system, some were from Earth, bringing supplies and more workers. Others were from different species across the galaxy, all wanting to see the humans who had defeated the mighty Krillian Empire. Captain Baker found herself giving tours to alien diplomats and military officers. They all wanted to know how such a small fleet had defeated such a large one. "It wasn't about the size of our fleet," she explained to a group of visiting ambassadors. "It was about why we were fighting. We weren't fighting for territory or resources. We were fighting for the idea that strong people should protect weak people." "But surely your tactics were superior," insisted one of the ambassadors. "Our tactics were different," Captain Baker agreed. "But the real difference was that we believed in what we were doing. When you're fighting for something you believe in, you fight harder and smarter." 2 weeks after the battle, Elder Kethvar called a special ceremony in the rebuilt central square of New Haven. Thousands of Zalani gathered. along with hundreds of humans and even some Krillians who had chosen to stay and help with the reconstruction. Today, Elder Kethvar announced, "We honor those who came from far away to help us in our darkest hour." The humans traveled across the galaxy not for profit or glory, but simply because we needed help. They risked their lives for people they had never met. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. The crowd of Zalani cheered. Many were crying again, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. Elder Kethvar continued, "We also honor the Krillians who chose to stay and help rebuild what they once destroyed. They have shown that even former enemies can become friends when they work together for a good cause." Admiral Carter stepped forward to speak. "Elder Kethvar, people of Zalani 442b, we didn't come here expecting thanks. We came because it was the right thing to do. But I want you to know that helping you has changed us too. You've shown us that there are still good people in the galaxy, worth fighting for. And we want you to know," Elder Kethvar said, "that the Zalani people will never forget. If Earth ever needs our help, you will have it. We may not be warriors, but we are good farmers, builders, and friends. Whatever